This is me and my wife Julie. Once we had retired in the spring of 2025, the number one thing on our bucket list was to walk the southwest coast path, not just once, but in both directions, a total of just over 1,200 miles. We live in the Peak District, so we'll use this beautiful landscape for our training. Julie has already done a few marathon hikes, so it's now up to me to get up to her level of fitness. Cloud, we're going to the top of that. Go on, Julie. Nearly there. We keep ourselves reasonably fit, but I think we will have to be at the top of our game for a challenge like this. So we spent the next few weeks training hard in the Derbyshire countryside. Finally, I completed my first marathon hike in just under 8.5 hours. Now I think we are ready to take on the salt path. This is the map of our southwest coast path walk, 630 miles from Minehead to Poole Harbour. When I said we were going to be walking it in both directions, I don't mean we're going to walk from Minehead all the way around to Poole Harbour, turn round and come back again. We're going to do it in smaller sections, so we'll start at Minehead, walk 6 or 7 miles, turn around and come back. And then the day after, we'll pick up where we left off, do another 6 or 7 miles and come back again. Part 1 for us is going to be from Minehead over to Hartland Point, just over 100 miles. We'll be walking through places like Lynton and Lynmouth, round Woolacombe Bay, round the Tortorig estuary to Westwood Hull, onto Clovelly, finishing at Hartland Point. These maps are amazing, A1 size, over 100 destinations along your walk, and you can pick them up on Etsy. Right, let's get cracking. We just arrived in Minehead. The start point is just across from the Butlins camp, across the bay. This is the sculpture at the start of Britain's favourite long distance walk, the 630 miles of the southwest coast path. As we leave the start point behind and head towards Porlock Weir, it's not long before we are out onto open countryside of Exmoor National Park, where the wild ponies roam freely. I study the finger posts carefully to make sure we are heading in the right direction, and at 7 miles in, we get to Hurlstone Point and a great view across the bay to Porlock Weir. Crossing the salt marshes was a bit tricky, as it was high tide and a lot of the path was flooded. We passed by the harbour and across the pebble beach, and a finger post points us inland. It shows 11 more miles to Lynmouth. We face a long climb up through the woods, crossing many cascading waterfalls, until we come to a sign saying Donations Cafe, a couple of cooler boxes full of supplies for anyone walking the path.
It's got in here bars of chocolates, the Energizer, and a stick down. So we're going to top our drinks up.
Yeah. From the top of Countersby Hill, we get our first view of Lynmouth.
Wow, that is a view.
How would that walk then? 15 mile, boiling hot, 30 degrees. Cheers. Walking the path in both directions has its challenges. The main one is trying to aim for a car park at the turnaround point, somewhere between 6 and 7 miles, so our day's walking won't be any more than 14 miles. Lynmouth is famous for its cliff railway, which has been transporting people 500 feet up the mountainside to the neighbouring village of Lynton since the 1890s.
Tea as well.
Cracking scone, that, isn't it? Nearly as big as your head.
Trying to say?
This will be our accommodation for the majority of our trip, our Pennine Pathfinder folding camper. And our first campsite is here at Lynmouth Holiday Retreat, 25 miles from Minehead. We start day 4 from the foot of the Cliff Railway and walk up the zigzag path to Lynton and then on to the spectacular Valley of Rocks. Nice little tea room. End of a walk. Cold drinks, cracking.
And a green tea.
And a green tea. This is Headon's Mouth. Right, we've got to go inland a bit to come back up the opposite side. There's a footpath. There's Headon's Mouth beach at the bottom. Good spot for lunch. We take a detour from the path to climb to the top of the Great Hangman, the highest point on the whole southwest coast path, before arriving in Combe Martin. There is no access anymore down onto Broadsands Beach due to path erosion. That's such a shame not to be able to get down onto one of Britain's most beautiful beaches. So we push on to Watermouth Bay for some refreshment from the Storm in the Teacup cafe, right on the water's edge of this pretty little inlet. I think this has to be our favourite cafe so far. From high above Hell Bay, we can see the bustling town of Ilfracombe, where the large statue of Verity dominates the harbour. We leave Ilfracombe along the Torres Walk and on to Lee Bay before rounding Bull Point Lighthouse, where we carry on to the white rocks of Rockham Bay. We stop for a rest and some food at the rocky headland of Moat Point. From here we get a great view of the 3 miles of sandy beach of Woolacombe Bay and the next headland of Baggy Point. Way out in the distance is Heartland Point, which will take us another 10 days to reach. Today we ended our day's walk here, at this small cove on the north end of Barricane Beach, a fantastic spot to end up on such a beautiful evening. The daytime beach cafe has now transformed into a Sri Lankan curry hut. You like it?
Sri Lankan curry. Big pieces of chicken. Veggies and rice. What's not to like?
This is what walking the path is all about, ending your days in memorable places like this.